Good morning, traders, and a happy Friday out there to everyone. Hope that y'all had a nice evening there and everything, and are all ready for this nice Friday in front of us with our NFP here in the morning session. Outside of that, as far as the economic calendar goes, we have our NFP unemployment rate there, 8:30, and then as the day goes on at 10 o'clock, that morning inflection point there, we'll have our consumer sentiment and inflation expectations respectively there. So, a few items there on the board, but first up, of course, naturally would be the 8:30 figure, so we'll want to take that into account. But with that said, wanted to get on a little early so we can cover our bases ahead of time there, so we're not, talking whilst we have the data point coming out. So, with that, we'll come over here and have our daily charts. Scoot this guy over here for now. Of course, with our ES in the Globex session. We've been, for the most part, trading at the upper end of yesterday's range, so not too many further progressions here as far as the index futures go. We did come awfully close yesterday to getting up there towards that previous day's high, but just could not quite get on the other side of it. But we did trade through that in the NASDAQ future at the very end of the day there, so a little bit of splitting the difference there in the ES, so no trade above that previous day's high, which was up there at 98.50, and of course overnight we've been keeping it fairly contained. As far as the dailies go, since we do have our morning data point up above from this previous range that we have built out here, last week's high, the 4607.75 up above. And I know these zones are a little bit wide, but since it is the daily chart, that's kind of the nature of them, coupled with the fact that we never quite know how we'll respond to these, morning data points. So on the other side of the coin, it's a ways down there, but 44.75 would kind of be a lower zone of interest there as far as the dailies go there for our ES. So not much has shifted there as we can see. And then as we move over here to the 120-minute display, our intraday charts, you can see we can been kind of continuing here with our rotational theme that the upper ends of the range and lower ends of the range have been essentially met with fading activity for the most part. But what's going to be mighty interesting is that for now we're still kind of maintaining ourselves at the upper end of the range. We had our nice sharp down and sharp up action on the 120, so we are filling out a little bit of range, but it's at the upper end here. So we're coming in essentially here at the 120-minute moving average, which comes in just on the other side of 45.80. So we've been kind of rotating around that zone in the Globex session, and we'll continue to monitor that. But of course, since we're in this range, we need to see some volume and conviction to come outside of it. So for now, this is what we're still working with, like keeping tabs there on that 120-minute display, and then of course bearing in mind as far as where we're postured there on the daily charts. Come over here to the DAX now. We have the DAX on the top left on the intraday charts. Doing just fine in the Globex session. We had the inside range day yesterday with the DAX. Noteworthy because the DAX has been working on some good persistency of trend here on the daily charts. Consecutive green bars up, if you would. So for today's case, we have 16,606 as the 5 SMA down below. So we're doing a fairly good job of holding ourselves up above that point. And then the 2-day high, which remains untested here, comes in at 16,752, which would be came in the form of a spike high here on the 30-minute display as well. So DAX, maintaining its own, it's holding. It has carried the ball quite a ways here, so nothing really major to fault there. Just a matter that they had the inside range bar yesterday, so we can get some better degree of range expansion going there for the DAX today. So we'll keep an eye on it there, but obviously maintaining itself fairly well. You have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yesterday was the 8th, closed above the 5 SMA here on the daily bars. So we have that going for us. That's there for the DAX. Over here we have the currency group up next here. The EC. I wouldn't say it's exactly the flip side of the coin as the DAX, but we have had also consecutive red bars down. And we recall looking at the close, we had put in our first pause bar of green here. So we tested above the 5 SMA yesterday, but definitely did not close above it. So overnight we have been proceeding to work ourselves back, and we have our previous day's low, which may be a bit of a stretch. Not necessarily sure we'll be coming right down for that, but that's at 1.07590. And when we come over to our intraday, I think I have to scoot this one over here. I'm just kind of following up from where we looked on the close yesterday. Remember drawing out the bit of the complex correction, that kind of A, B, C type of wave. So we do have a bit of that rhythm unfolding. This was just our reaction up and test above the 5 SMA yesterday, and now proceeding to, work ourselves back down. So we do have that previous day's low marked off here as well on the 120-minute display. So for now, a partial retest, filling out some range, likely in the form of an A, B, C type of wave, but we'll want to monitor to see just as to how close we get towards that previous day's low. But our little bit of selling pressure is coming in first, as opposed to doing any additional testing on that previous day's high. So pretty good rhythm. This would be similar if it was our 5-minute S&P data, right? When we get the consecutive red bars down early off the opening, and then put in the pause bar of green, oftentimes we see the following bar to be met with another red bar back down. So euro currency, that's where we stand there, 1.07590, the previous day's low for it. And then we have the GC here, the gold. Actually, we'll shrink this one back down here. The gold had closed itself in a bit more of a balanced mode yesterday. We had the inside range day on the day prior, and yesterday we kept things fairly contained with that of the gold. Here we can drop it down to a little bit of a tighter time frame, just to showcase the fact that we have been building out a little bit more of a back and forth range. 2027 down below, of course, is a bit more of a substantial zone, but we've been leaving that untested for now. And up above, I know these are kind of narrow regions here. Looking at the 2050.8 up above in the case of the gold, from having several tests here in the past, multiple data points. So a bit of a region for them to kind of rotate back and forth with. We'll see, since they do have their morning data point. We're, poised here since we do have some good price bar overlap on the daily charts. But for now, not really moving too far outside of that range there in the case of the gold. But one certainly keep tabs on there today, since it is fairly ripe there. So we have that going, and then next on up is the crude here. The crude, quite the extended move it had there over the past 3 trading days. So with the crude, almost similar to some extent to like the euro currency with the pause bar of green. The only difference with the crude is that we were slicing through major lows there. So here with the CL, testing a little bit back above previous day's high for one. So our previous day's high in the crude, 70.48. So looking above that briefly. We haven't gone too far just yet, but we are doing some little testing back above 5 SMA. But this additional data point here, we are certainly not back above the 72.37 zone as of yet in the crude. So we'll have some work cut out for us. We're putting in the low to high movement first, so carrying the ball too far, we might end up starting to run into some resistance zones. And when we take this crude here and just blow it up a notch, something like the 120-minute display, and blow it up just a little bigger so we can get that 72.37, visible on the charts. So even though we've had this march up, for one, you can see all this heavy pressure that we had originally, right? So we're coming up, recouping some of that damage that was done, but coming all the way back up to the 72.37 would require a little more effort. So for now, repairing a couple of the blanks, 71.33 there. It's going to be that overnight high to bear in mind there for the CL, and we'll keep tabs on it there. We'll see how it starts to maneuver around, but 71.33 overnight high, 72.37 previous big swing low there on the daily charts, and then down below, of course, the 69.11 from yesterday's action. So plenty of good reference points there on the crude. And then we have the bonds here, also ones that should be curious here today. We recall yesterday filling out a bit of this A, B, C type of rhythm with some nice double testing that we had put in. Lower high also on the hourly bonds, so failed to make the full retest up. And proceeding to walk things back. Also, we had a fairly good impulse up in the bonds, so demanding itself more of a complex correction just to digest that upside progress that we did have. So that's perfectly fine. We've been trading all inside of that here as of late. Viewing, I know it's ways down there. 119.01. Just because, as you can see here, we had a nice takeoff there and then proceeded to consolidate before then having our next leg up to the upside. So in case we loosen up at all, 119.01 would certainly be a zone of interest there for the bonds. And then outside of that, of course, we're beneath the previous day's low. So that would be worth, keeping on the trading sheets there as well. That's going to be the 119.20. So we're kind of trading on it here as we speak, the previous day's low on the bonds. And you can see it also comes in pretty darn close where the 5 SMA here on the daily bars comes in, which is at 119.18. So a little bit of confluence there. Previous day's low and 5 SMA coming in, fairly close to each other. So, with that said, I'm going to get our scaling back in order here. We'll get this ES loaded on up and see how we come in and digest our morning NFP figure there. I'm sure there's a lot of a lot of eyes watching it there, so a lot of anticipation. So we'll want to see how the market responds to that and take it from there.